We need to be cautious but not panicky. We don't need to worry. We don't have any data to suggest that this variant JN.1 is more severe or it's going to cause more pneumonia or more death. ऐसा कोई data नहीं है. Try to take the normal preventive measures that we are all now familiar with. WHO has said let's keep a watch on it. It's a variant of interest. It's not a variant of concern. At this point, no need to panic. We need to be cautious but not panicky. We don't need to worry because we don't have any data to suggest that this variant JN.1 is more severe or it's going to cause more pneumonia or more death. ऐसा कोई data नहीं है. So I think what we need to do is try to take the normal preventive measures that we are all now familiar with. Avoid being in a very closed environment with very poor ventilation, with lots of people without a mask. So do wear a mask if you are in that type of very close setting, because prolonged exposure to somebody who's infected definitely increases the risk of infection. Try to be in an open space rather than indoor space. So have gatherings in outdoor ventilated places, because today is now we're entering into the season of gatherings. And if you have symptoms, please try to avoid going into parties and going into office. Stay at home, take rest, wear a mask. Make sure that you are not coughing and spitting into other people's faces. Wash your hands regularly. And of course, if you have some warning symptoms and signs like severe fatigue, prolonged fever, or you're feeling breathless, you feel you can't really breathe well, then you need to go into the hospital. And
ma'am, do you think this particular variant, that is Omicron?
Yes. So we're all now very familiar with Omicron because we've had it for now around 2 years going around. I think most of us have also been infected by Omicron. So it's the same family, so not much of change, but 1 or 2 new mutations which have come up. And that's why I think WHO has said let's keep a watch on it. It's a variant of interest. It's not a variant of concern. So I think we need more data, we need to monitor, we need to step up the surveillance. But at this point, no need to panic.
Ma'am, what about hospitalization? Do you think if the hospitalization is going to increase, if the number of cases will increase?
See, when number of cases go up, then there's always a small percentage of people who need to be hospitalized. So if you have 100 people with infection, 1 person will need to be hospitalized. If you have 1 lakh people, then 100 people need to be hospitalized. So that way, you will see that there's an increase in people getting sick. But hopefully it's not going to come to that. I think if people put their own personal precautions into place, and we follow COVID appropriate behavior, because it's not only COVID, we have to realize that there are other respiratory infections circulating now in the winter, and therefore these precautions will help us against influenza, against common cold, against all infections, so we can stay healthy.
And do you think, what about the masking? Basically, masking is not mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory. I think it should be voluntary in the sense that people should understand their own risk. Am I an older person? Do I have diabetes, hypertension, or do I have chronic lung disease? Then I must protect myself with a mask. Also, if I'm feeling sick, I'm feeling like I have a cough and cold, I should wear a mask to protect others. So I think those are all common sense things, but we should encourage each other. Shouldn't laugh at somebody who's wearing a mask. I think it's certainly a good practice. In many countries, you see that everybody is wearing a mask in the winter months. If you go to Japan, you'll find everyone is wearing a mask, especially when they're in public transport. So there's nothing wrong with it's a good practice to do that.
Ma'am, as we've seen that, the number of cases of this particular variant JN.1, the number of cases increased during the time of some event in Goa. So because of the tourism also, it is a tourist place. Do you think at this point RT-PCR should be mandatory for the travelers at international airports?
I don't think, you see, these are things that the government will put out the guidelines based on, the trend that they're watching. So I think right now we have not reached the point where these kind of things have to be put in place. Maybe we will in a couple of weeks, maybe we won't. We need to wait and see. It all depends on how things turn out. Obviously, the government is keeping a close watch. Surveillance has been increased. All states are on high alert, and preparations have been made in case there is a need for oxygen beds. So it's better to be prepared always. And we have to adapt to the changing situation.
Ma'am, yesterday there was a meeting. So what trend has been noticed if we talk about other countries, like 36 to 40 countries are facing...
Yes, I mean, it's similar to what we've seen in the past. One country identifies it, then other countries start reporting it, and then gradually over a period of weeks, if that variant has some properties which make it more transmissible, you'll see it increasing. This is what has happened with JN.1. It was 0.1%, then it became 1%. Now it is 30% of all sequences which are globally being deposited in GISAID. From India also now the numbers of sequences will go up because genomic sequencing has been increased. So it's what is expected. It's nothing unexpected, and we knew that COVID will continue to mutate. It will continue to produce new variants that we have to continue to be watchful. So it is playing out as it was expected.